Welcome back, viewers. Here today with our CEO and all-round top man, Mr. Will Morey. Welcome, Will.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Good. So, as we both know, I think all too well, we've been crazy busy the last, it feels like forever, basically, but I think the last quarter particularly, we have a lot going on. But I know one of the products that we're all massively excited about is Anywhere for IPECS Cloud.
Absolutely.
So I thought, we could have a little bit of a chat about that. But I'm quite interested, initially, from your point of view, to sort of get your view on why you think this is such a game changer for us in the channel.
Okay. I think a few reasons. I think the first one is really obvious. It just makes sense. Mm-hmm. I love it when we get a proposition and you get to innovate and create something, and you just look at it and you go, why wouldn't you do that? Why doesn't that it just hits where the market is, I think, absolutely perfectly. Because why do you want to have a completely separate mobile phone set of features and services and functionality completely separate away from your UC environment? What you want to do is to be able to use a consistent unified communications as a service proposition regardless of device. That's always been the proposition. Sure. Unified communications. Except when it unified way back when the term UC came up, it was done through an overlay app on your mobile phone. Now, we've seen all the stats, we've read the reports, we understand as users as well. People just don't like using them. People
was
aren't
it something
huge.
Like less than 10% of users continue to use a mobile app?
Exactly right. We get it in the first month. It's like, this is brilliant. I can do all of this. You load it on your iPhone. You're loving it. 3 weeks later, 3 months later, the usage stats just fall off a cliff because people don't want to do that, because they pick up their phone and they want to hit the green button and they want to make a call. And that kind of user behaviour is what we've got to tap into. So going back to my point, unified communications wasn't really unified. It felt like it was a bit of a sticking plaster over what we were trying to achieve. With Anywhere, what we've got is the mobile phone genuinely integrated into the UCaaS environment. It's just another endpoint, just like a handset, just like a desktop app, just like any other third-party SIP device. And because of that, it just makes sense. It means a user can use it anywhere. And with the kind of recent capability around dual switch and dual SIM and eSIM technology, it's suddenly really easy to deploy. So we're not even talking about, a lot of the time, displacing the existing mobile phone contract. Because we talk about
line, I guess, if you're talking about eSIM, for example.
Exactly. And we talk about mobile phone contract. Let's be honest, it's a data contract that enables you to run all the data applications that sit on your smart device. I don't think we should call it a smartphone. I'd love to see the stats of actually when people are using an iPhone or an Android phone now, what's the percentage of time that the phone is being used versus all the other apps. I'd say it's massively in the minority.
I would say so, definitely.
So if you think about that, it suddenly turns this device into a really useful communications device, because yes, you've got that on the dual SIM or the eSIM, and you've got a really lined up proposition. And for the reseller, the great news here is suddenly this proposition means your addressable market increases by a massive amount. In a lot of organisations, 50% of the staff in an organisation are frontline workers. Up until now, that hasn't been within the kind of addressable market for UCaaS. Suddenly, whether it's a delivery driver, a boiler heating engineer, a broadband engineer coming to fit something, whether it's any number of frontline roles, a social care worker, suddenly all of those people want UCaaS and need UCaaS. And you can deliver the call recording, you can deliver the analytics, you can deliver the outstanding user experience they get from having UCaaS just the same as a desktop. So for the resellers, I think the stats was 2 billion more
frontline workers
globally now in our addressable market. What a phenomenal opportunity.
So I guess back to a point you made there, when you're starting to look at those types of users, there is this whole compliance question, and I guess you still, and I've spoken to people where they've said, just give them IPECS 1, which is, it's a fair point. But I think back to the earlier point we talked about is, but how many of those users continue to use that product on a longer term basis? So with a lot of those customer types you're talking about there, I guess it falls into two categories of compliance for me. You've kind of got the you have to be compliant. So
Yeah.
you've got maybe your finance type organisation,
exactly.
guys doing deals on the phone or something like that. They have to record calls.
Yeah.
Or you've got kind of like almost a self-regulated type customer where they choose to be compliant because they're monitoring customer service and all that kind of stuff as well. And
as business owners, business leaders, what we want to understand is what is the customer experience that our frontline teams are delivering? How does that look? Can we understand what's going on in terms of customer behaviour, customer feedback? Suddenly, all of that now is there and available to us through using Anywhere, because we've got analytics to overlay on it, we've got call recording overlaid on it. Why wouldn't you want to have every single interaction with your customer recorded? So when something is queried or there's an issue, you've got it at your fingertips. It's there, and that's the beauty of analytics as well. You run the report, hit the play button, straight out the report, and you're there. It's not like you've got to go and find a call recording. And I guess the point, super simple.
And I suppose the point of this is if you do fall into that trap of people dropping off their use of stuff like IPECS 1, if you have to be compliant, that's when you're at risk, right?
Absolutely, you're immediately non-compliant because you've given people an option.
Someone's not using the app, whereas with this, it's all in the background, it's built into the SIM, happens automatically.
Compliance is guaranteed, and we take compliance a stage further by also offering the capability to see all of the text that are being delivered over that handset as well. So with that, I think that's another really strong piece of compliance for any organisation. You can see all of the text that are flowing in and out of that phone. You can see, you could pick up sentiment through it. You can see what kind of, you can flag sentiment. You can flag inappropriate content. You can flag and look at transactions, because I don't know about you, I know that I've done business over WhatsApp.
One of the examples we talked about was the car dealership, right?
Exactly.
Those guys are always on their feet, they're always on the go. Going on, last time I bought a car, one of the first things the guy did was, here's my mobile number if you need to get hold of me again. And
back and forth text, all about that. And back and forth text, and then the conversation drifts into the financing of the vehicle. And suddenly you've got kind of commitments being made by a salesperson on how financing will work. And you've got all of that captured in this environment. It really is a killer proposition to get out into the market with, to differentiate and to put the mobile genuinely back in the hands of the enterprise, back in the control of the enterprise, because up until then people didn't know what calls were going on, what the stats, the
what's our salesperson been up to out the road,
and everybody's based from home now increasingly, so it gives you that visibility, and it's not a case of be honest, we've had it recently. You look at what a salesperson's done, and it's like, well, there's no outbound calls coming from that that extension. I did them all on my mobile. Well, up until now, I didn't know that.
No,
doesn't matter whether you do them on your mobile now.
Exactly.
And I get the call recordings. And it's all really easy to work with. It's just there.
And I think it's always a slightly dodgy subject to get onto, but unique. And we are looking at a product here that in our sector of the market is a unique proposition, right? There is nobody else that we're working against on a daily basis that is able to provide this kind of setup.
It's unique, and it has value. People really value this capability. It's not about getting as low as you possibly can on the price. It's about genuinely understanding what's the needs of the business, how can I present them a solution that's going to have a real impact in their business, and this does. It creates opportunity for the reseller and margin opportunity and benefit for the end user that they're willing to pay for. We know that. We're consistently seeing that feedback in the numbers we're seeing in the engagement with the product.
And I think, like you say as well, the number of mobile users out there today is from the smallest company right through to the sort of hundreds of users. Mobiles are just, you only got to walk around our office, haven't you, on an average day.
I live on my mobile. That's where I make the vast majority of my calls.
And I think you're one of our newest recruits as well, aren't you?
I am. And what a process that was.
The setup.
I walked past your desk and I said, any chance I can have a go on this this product? You said, no problem. I reckon 45 seconds later, you walked into my office. It was
only because you asked me, though.
Yeah, for everybody else. But no, you walked in and you said, I think you've got an eSIM. And I've set up your eSIM and you got a QR code. I scanned the QR code. I was live, up and running with my new mobile. Everything was sorted. It worked, and I was calling out on it. My calls were being recorded. And that all took place, sub 5 minutes, certainly.
I definitely
was incredible.
think, the process around that has improved so much over the last sort of 6 months or so. But I think, particularly as you look at the sort of the mobile landscape going forwards, I think Motorola are the first manufacturer to launch an eSIM only phone. So so what we're seeing is it's not just about us having that eSIM capability. It's also with an eye on the future, because as mobile manufacturers develop, we're going to see more and more eSIM only devices coming to market as well. But without a doubt, the setup of eSIM.
And I mean, we shouldn't just do it. We've obviously got physical SIM as well. We can deliver it in whatever way suits for the customer.
Absolutely.
But for me, the eSIM process was just mind blowing, and it's fair to say this kind of proposition has been a long time in the making. We've had a few attempts at getting this right. We've worked really well with Tango to get to this point, and pioneers get arrows in their backs, don't they? It's been tough, and we had a few pioneering resellers who had a few difficulties on the first version of the product, and we put our hands up to that. But it's got us to where we are today, which is a really strong product, really simple provisioning, and a proposition that just cleans up.
Taken a few punches, but still standing.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, more than that, we're on the front foot and we're punching back.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I find, I initially thought this was quite a small thing, but the more I talk to partners about it, is the branding as well. Yeah. So obviously, people will be finding out over the course of time, but we can brand the network name that's shown as well.
So it shows up on my phone with
So we've got Anywhere shown on ours, but for any of our partners that have got their own brand and they want to, show that.
What a great way of getting in front of your customer and showing again the value of your brand to them. And
good luck with getting Vodafone to do that, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's never going to happen, is it? I just love as well the when you think about it, the challenges that come with number presentation and presenting your mobile phone number. If you think about certain environments, social care being the most obvious, maybe of a really good example, you want to ring someone and say, I'll be with you in 20 minutes. You don't want to do that from your personal mobile, because then you've provided your mobile, so then at 3 a.m. when there's an issue, someone's ringing you, you've got a duty of care to handle that, you may be out having a few drinks and it's not the best time to handle it. All of those scenarios that are really easy to relate to are a nightmare. Whereas this is a number that you can choose what you present to the person so they can ring you back. The call will be managed and handled in the appropriate way, in a compliant way, and it won't put you in a difficult position as an individual user. And I think, I use social care as an example there, but there are so many examples where there's perhaps a reticence of calling on your mobile and presenting and kind of surfacing your mobile number to an individual that isn't great. You don't want to do that. So I think this solves that problem.
I think one of the examples we talked about just recently as well is it's also like you sort of think like your gas engineer or something. They're quite often leaving a number, or they're when they're calling from a private personal mobile, and that customer, you or I, is then being left with that as the number to call back on. Actually, for the business who they're working on behalf of, that's potentially lost revenue, because a lot of these guys are
independent contractors.
Yeah,
we spoke to a company who are experiencing that. They're outsourcing work to independents. Those guys are going out to site. They're leaving their mobile number exactly as you say on that with that site. And then they're getting the call back. It's then not managed by the company that did the original contract. They're working one-to-one with an individual, and they can provide that service, thus losing, in the example of the company we were talking to, hundreds of thousands of pounds in revenue because of the loss of income going to the very people who they'd employed to deliver the service. It's a fantastic example.
And I think for me also, when you're talking about a number presentation and an identity, it's also the internal piece as well, which I think is really powerful on this, because obviously, if you've got, go back to your earlier point, if you're just pushing out standard business mobiles to your users, I might have your number saved, but if someone's dialing on an extension number, that doesn't exist in that world. Whereas we have control over that.
Exactly.
The way we've been setting up the mobiles here, people have been like, "Oh my god, it is. It makes it so much different." When you're able to see the identity of the person calling you, and we've got that internal dialing thing sorted out as well. So
absolutely, I just think it comes full circle to where we started this conversation. It just makes sense. It's just, it's when technology meets that wonderful point where it's just this is really obvious.
Yeah.
This is how communications, this is how UCAS is meant to be. This is what the U in unified communications was meant to deliver. And what a great position to be in as a reseller, selling that proposition in, where you can walk in the door and know that what you're selling just makes sense.
And I think with our years of experience between us and knowing the different vendors that we've had experiences with, you know, at various points in the last probably 10 years at least, they've all come out with fantastic mobile apps.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's been the death knell of all of those has been you and me.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Because we use it a couple of times. Oh, it's great, but then 2 or 3 months down the line, it's I need to make a call, bosh, on the native dialer, and you forget about it. So, and I think the good thing for us, the one last thing I would say, is that I was chatting to the guys at Tango the other day. We've got a good roadmap on this product as well. So it's like, you know, we've got a good product today.
Yeah.
There's a whole load of stuff going on in the background around how we develop it going forwards as well. So
absolutely. I was reminded of one of your favourite phrases there, where you were talking about the issue being the user, the picnic example.
Oh,
problem in chair, not in computer. And it's exactly that, isn't it?
Totally.
It's an absolute picnic example.
Yeah.
The user is never really going to change their behaviour.
No.
They'll flirt with it, they'll do it for a week, they'll do it for a month. They'll do it if they get absolutely told to and given a real kicking over it. But they'll stop
for
again
a couple
3
of
months.
weeks.
Exactly. 2 weeks later.
Yeah, you've got to be compliant.
You can't argue with human habit, and you've got to make sure that what you're putting in their hands, in their user experience, is the obvious choice, not the mandated choice, because that's what the boss says.
Exactly.
People will always go with habit.
Totally. So if you had to leave these viewers with one final message, what would you want to leave them with if they took nothing else away from listening to us?
I think really it's the two things. One, it's about putting the mobile back in the hands of the enterprise, back in the control of the enterprise, and doing that. And then I think, three things actually. That, increased addressable market, what a phenomenal opportunity to get out there and double in most cases the number of people you can address with a UCAS proposition. And then thirdly, where I started out, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, it just makes sense. When you pitch it, know that you're pitching something that just makes sense. It's just simple, it works, it's how we'd all want to work if we had the choice. So those are the three things for me.
Awesome. So you heard it from Will. That's where we're at with anywhere.
It just works.
It just works. Maybe that's our new advertising strapline for it. So, well, listen, thanks for taking time out. I know you've got a particularly hectic schedule, so appreciate you spending some time going through that, and hope to get you back for another
really enjoyable
fireside chat at some point.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so listen up, folks. This is the usual YouTube bit, but don't forget to like the video if you found it useful, and subscribe. We're putting more and more content up on YouTube, and we wouldn't want you to miss out.